What's going on, everybody? Anubis Black here, and today we're going to keep trucking along with the Nicktoons Games Review series, and today's topic will address both Fairly Odd Parents Breakin the Rules and Into the Cleft on Game Boy Advance. And yes, just like the last two Jimmy Neutron games that I've talked about, at least one of these titles also has a console counterpart, which I still have not played yet at the time of recording this video. Also, I want to clarify one thing before I go on. I'm aware that there are more than 2 GBA games for Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron and even Rocket Power, but I will only be talking about the games that I have actually played beforehand. Otherwise, this video would be over 20 minutes long, and some of these games are definitely more enjoyable to play and or talk about than others. Having said that, let's dive right into this discussion and see how these two handheld games compare. Starting off with Fairly Odd Parents Breakin the Rules. Okay, so Breakin the Rules on GBA came out the same day as the console version and was developed by Helix just like Jet Fusion. And coincidentally, it is also a run-and-gun platformer kind of game where you fight against the anti-fairies and try to recover the rulebook after it gets stolen. Meanwhile, Cosmo and Wanda get their powers nerfed by Jorgen as punishment. However, they will still aid Timmy throughout the journey, like reviving him after dying or dropping a screen-clearing nuke on your enemies when things get a little hairy. The majority of the time, you will be shooting down waves of anti-fairies and other magical things during the levels, which will lead to a close quarters enemy rush or a boss battle, and most of them are decently challenging and have an easy to read pattern, albeit some do go on for a bit too long. I can also say the game's colorful and varied art design does a great job of making each new area and their corresponding enemies feel different from each other, which is much appreciated. Every now and then, there will be some kind of special gimmick in the level to spice things up, like moon physics or swimming. However, the core gameplay style of running left and right and shooting enemies will pretty much stay the same. And as far as collectibles go, you'll be picking up these little floating crowns, Cosmo coins, pages of the rulebook, and occasionally dollar bills for an extra retry. This currency will be very important during gameplay, as Timmy has no health bar and will always die from one hit. Usually this title is generous with the live system, but if you end up dying over and over again on a certain boss fight like I did, they will come in handy. Not to mention, the damn password system makes a return yet again, but this time it's not too bad. At least the levels aren't ridiculously long like in Jet Fusion. Also, sometimes there will be power-ups to utilize, like making you invincible, increasing the strength of your shots, or summoning this creepy balloon Timmy doll that absorbs damage. All these little additions to the gameplay keep things from getting stale and boring. Because as I said, the things you do in this game never really change throughout its runtime, but I still had a decent experience with it despite that fact. I also really enjoyed the soundtrack in this game as well. Every theme has a bassy, jazzy kind of feel to it that fits perfectly with the original series. I think Helix did well in capturing the style and feel of Fairly Odd Parents, even for a GBA game. So now, let's take a look at the next Fairly Odd Parents game, Into the Cleft on GBA, to see how it stacks up. Alright, so Fairly Odd Parents Into the Cleft came out on November 4th, 2002, and was developed by Ultron. Unlike Breakin the Rules, this game does not have a console version at all, and honestly, that's okay. I think the general art direction the studio was going for in this one fits well enough on its current system, as the story takes place inside of Timmy's Crimson Chin comic book. The basic plot of this story involves Timmy transforming into Cleft the Boy Chin Wonder with the help of Cosmo and Wanda's magic, and it's up to them to save the Crimson Chin after he gets captured by a gang of villains. The gameplay will have you running and platforming through a variety of levels based around each villain's home of operations, accompanied by a set of their own unique henchmen. In this one, Timmy can jump, dash, slide into enemies, and shoot water blasts, as well as pick up other projectile-type weapon upgrades, and all of his moves work well enough to get through the combat and platforming sections. Also, whenever you collect enough of these magic wands, you can purchase special tools from Cosmo and Wanda to help you out in some rough spots. Some of these are pretty damn broken, but they do come in the clutch when you really need it. I mean, it's not like the game is super difficult or anything. Pretty much all of the levels here are linear with simple objectives that will eventually lead to boss battles, as you've seen in many other games like it. But something about Into the Cleft feels very, very familiar. And what I mean by that is, from a gameplay perspective, this title literally feels just like Hey Arnold the movie with a Fairly Odd Parents costume on it. Sure, it obviously does have its standout differences like the style, the art direction, and music, but the mechanics seem far too similar for it to be something completely original, and the fact that both of these games were developed by Ultron doesn't help either. However, despite saying that, I did have a good time playing through Hey Arnold the movie game, so by extension I also had a good time playing through Into the Cleft. The game does offer just enough pizzazz to make it stand on its own 2 feet, regardless of the similarities. In fact, I think I actually prefer Into the Cleft simply for the few extra things that it did try to do differently. And if I had to compare it to Breakin the Rules GBA, I wouldn't be 100% sure on which one I liked more. I thought both of these games were pretty solid in their own way, and I definitely didn't find myself nearly as frustrated as when I played Jet Fusion, or bored out of my freaking mind like when I attempted to play Shadow Showdown. So to sum up my thoughts on these 2 handheld titles, I'd say they are both pretty decent in general. Yeah, they're pretty decent. Next week, we shall continue forward with the last few videos in my Nicktoons game review series, as I talk in depth about Tak and the Power of Juju on GBA. So if that interests you, stay tuned to Anubis Black Games for more content just like this. Thanks for watching as always, have a good evening, and I'll see you again in the next video. Alright, bye-bye.
Thank you.